Hello, everyone. I'm just a curious skeleton, and today I have another niche indie game showcase for you. I'm a big fan of indie games, so I always love finding a reason to play more and share them. The rules here are simple. The games have to have under 1,000 reviews on Steam as of the time I played them, and I also have to play each one for at least an hour. Though, of course, this varies. Sometimes I'll have played more, or even beat the game. Now that that's over, let's just get right into it. First up, we have Jackal, and it's probably one of the easiest sales of this video. It is a Hotline Miami clone set in the 70s. You play a drug fueled hitman who has the god of death, Anubis, as his partner. Developed and published by Transhuman Design, Jackal is one of the games I've beaten in this showcase. It is a short game. Beating the main story only takes around 2 hours, but it is a fun 2 hours. It also has difficulties, level mutators, and the ability to randomize level layouts, so it's an easy way to burn more time past the main story. The gameplay is very much just Hotline Miami. The twist on it being in this game you have spells you get from Anubis by completing finishers on enemies. You only equip one per level, and they range from things like time freezing, making enemies react slower or allowing you to move faster. This makes things a bit more interesting, but it's not much of a game changer. I found myself only really using spells like once a mission on my first go through. You can also only use your spell once per level, so that's kind of a redundant statement I just made. But they're more of an ace up the sleeve rather than like a utility mechanic. Overall, Jackal just really feels like a clunkier Hotline Miami. I did see reviews of people disliking the gameplay, which I somewhat understand. It's like Hotline Miami. On the normal mode, you die in one hit. So that clunkiness can mean a lot in some cases. There is an easy mode where you get 3 hits before you die, which of course helps a lot. Plus, it's just in the nature of the game to be doing a lot of trial and error. Getting close to being a level when one of the last guys hits you is a core experience of the game. Figuring out whether you were going to come up with more of a strategy or just bulldog it until you finally manage to clear the level. Overall, I found Jackal pretty fun. It does not feel as smooth or dialed in as Hotline Miami, but it's very serviceable. Enemy variety is also pretty standard. You have grunts and heavies for the most part. Then they start mixing in crazier stuff like dogs, alligators, ostriches, tigers, snipers. It all adds to the chaos where this game shines. Chaotically fighting a group of guys and wasting ammo when suddenly a tiger shows up when you have no more bullets, running and throwing weapons at it trying to survive. It makes things a lot more intense. Echo is just a fun way to burn a couple hours here and there, especially when it all aligns together. The chaotic gameplay with the stellar soundtrack. Level design is a bit mixed. I think a lot of them blend together and are short for the most part. However, I also think the designs are way more inspired in the later levels. The story is pretty simple. Think an old 70s mob movie mixed with some Moon Knight vibes, full of cool and fun dialogue, cigarette smoke, and the main character bickering with the god of death. Also gotta add in the femme fatale and the big bad mob boss, of course. It's a fun little ride, with good voice acting and a fine dynamic between its leads. All wrapped up in a super fun presentation. Easy to recommend if you like games similar to Hotline Miami. Next up, we got Sniper Killer, developed by Black Eyes Priest and Henry Hoare, produced by Torture Star Video. You step into a world reminiscent of cheesy 70s and 80s slashers. You play as the killer, the victims, and the cop hunting the vicious sniper killer. This one is just really oozing with atmosphere and charm. It just has a lot of humor and is very cheeky and self aware. A clear love letter to B horror movies. Voice acting is really fun. I tend to be a read the subtitles guy and skip to the next line halfway through the person's delivery, but I found myself letting them finish their lines a good bit in this game. It really added a new level of charm. The voice actors are so clearly having a good bit of fun with it. The atmosphere of this game is that PSX grimy look that a lot of games do these days, which I know some are getting tired of. I still eat it up pretty happily though. I like the grainy feel and static faces that remind me of things like Max Payne. The gameplay here honestly had a bit more than I expected. I was thinking the cop levels would be the bulk of things and mainly walking around, with the killer portions just being you having to aim and fire at whoever. But no, the killer portions are like very basic Hitman levels. At the beginning, with 1 hour in it, it looks like I'm around a third through the levels. I assume they get more complex as you go too. You have to find a way to distract people and get around obstructions. Now, it's all pretty simple. You can usually tell almost immediately what you have to do, but it was more than I was expecting. You also only get a certain number of bullets, and you have a hold breath button to make taking shots easier. There's also a little score you receive on the end that gives you a grade for the mission alongside your time, how many bullets you fired. I like the addition of playing as the victims too. It adds that extra level of horror to everything as you try and get away from the inevitable. Keep in mind, from what I have experienced, this game is going to be mainly walking still. If you want some Hitman Light type of deal, that is not what this is trying to be. Story wise, it's also pretty simple, like I said, really showing its love for B movies. It's full of cheekiness, self awareness, and a good bit of absurdity. Anything but a boring time from what I played. It is a very predictable story, but it seems aware of this, rather than go out of its way to try and hide its twist. It seems like it's more interested in using its obviousness to have some fun with things. This is one I'm definitely going to go back to and finish. Another easy recommendation for anyone who is a fan of cheesy slasher narratives, or just like the creepy and distinct vibes that emanate from this sort of game. Now we have Spirit Tea, developed by Cheesemaster Games and published by No More Robots. It's Stardew Valley with an East Asian twist. Rather than farming, the main grind mechanic in Spirit Tea is managing a bathhouse for spirits. You play as an author who moves to this small town. You come to learn it's full of restless spirits. With the help of one of them, who wants to help restore the spirits back to their normal selves, you start to run the old bathhouse. I played the first couple days of this game, clocking in between 1 and 2 hours. Games like this tend to have a lot of content and seasonal changes, but I did not get to personally explore a lot of it yet. I did see there's stuff like fishing, shrine upgrades, cooking, and karaoke. The bathhouse portion keeps you in a cycle of business, doing chores. The main routine in the beginning of this game is assigning spirits to a bath, which is deeper than it seems in of itself. Some spirits get along with certain ones, just like others, which all affects their happiness rate, and thus also their tips. You manage cutting a log and putting it into the furnace to keep the baths warm. You also only get a certain number of logs each day. Then you have a certain number of towels. You give one to a spirit in order to let them in and place it in a bath, and after they are done, the towel is dirty and you have to wash it and then dry it, each being its own action that takes time. The main starting cycle is mainly placing spirits, cutting the log, and cleaning towels so you can place them out front. The cycle feels pretty natural. I never felt too overwhelmed or busy. Of course, there are additional mechanics like brushing spirits with a broom, which will make them happy and leave faster, so you can get more customers in a day. I believe you can also eventually cook for the spirits. There's seasonal changes, so in winter, ice can form in the baths and you have to break it, or leaves fall in the autumn and you have to sweep them away. It can all seem a bit overwhelming up front. I know you can also eventually hire up to 4 people, which I imagine will lighten up the load a lot. There's also just a plethora of spirits. You have a spirit vision mechanic, where if you make a certain tea, you can switch into it and see them in the real world, aka outside the bathhouse. This pairs with the task board in the village, in which villagers talk about strange occurrences happening. You figure out the cause, switch to spirit vision, and catch these spirits, which then leads you to finding out what type of spirit they are, and now you will see them in the bathhouse. Catching the spirits in whatever act they are doing also leads to different outcomes. Some you have to chase, some try to hide, and others don't even go anywhere. This almost creature collector type aspect injects a lot of personality into the game. Learning these spirits' little stories makes the bathhouse feel much more alive. The music of this game is nice and calming, and the art is great. The character portraits communicate the villagers' personalities very well. I haven't done too much stuff around the village yet, as I focused on collecting some spirits and running the bathhouse the first couple days, so I could talk about those mechanics better. Honestly, interacting with the villagers is probably the part I look forward to the most. I always enjoy seeing where relationships and quests go in these types of games. This whole game really just has that chill vibe mastered. Plus, it is controller only, but it's pretty clear it just wants you to sit back and relax as you live life in this little village. I haven't scratched much of the story yet, obviously, but I'm intrigued by some things I've seen so far, like the fact you can actually work on writing your book, or seeing the chapters listed in the pamphlet you can look at. I don't know for sure. Right now it feels like it has more of an actual story than something like Stardew Valley. I'm also just drawn to its overall vibe more than most of these types of games. I really love the East Asian influence it has, and the Bathhouse for Spirits is way more of a fun idea to me than just farming. Full of content and life, this is an easy recommendation for anyone into games similar to Stardew Valley. Stories from Seoul, Gundog is a visual novel with point and click elements, developed by Space Colony Studios and published by Astrolab Games and Meridian Games. Exploring a retro anime and game aesthetic, you enter the role of a new security guard stationed to the Gundog. It probably goes without saying, but this is the most laid back game here, being mainly a visual novel. I played this one for about 2 hours, making sure I got to do some of the point and click portions. It's pretty straightforward so far. You have a HUD, and on the right you see the options move, look, use, talk, and item. Pretty self-explanatory what each does. As the story progresses, you have to investigate certain areas, talk to characters, learn things, remember codes, and more. The stuff you expect from a point-and-click game, really. It doesn't seem to be one where you have to make ridiculous combos and solutions either. You mostly just have to pay attention to what the characters say, as they will give you clues or straight up directions. There was a part where I kept getting a code wrong, and eventually the game had a character straight up tell me what it was again. That was near the beginning of the game though, in a section where I was stuck in place without items, so it very well might have just been a situational thing, where they didn't want players to get hard stuck, rather than something to do with any puzzle if you don't think of something right away. I also did appreciate you do not have to memorize the layout of the ship. You can move to each area one at a time if you want. You also get a map where you can just click and go to a location, and if any events are meant to happen on the way, they still occur. So you don't have to worry about missing these events or interactions. There's also some choices you can make occasionally. Nothing too crazy or game changing, and there's only a couple of them I've done so far. But I always enjoy any kind of choices I get in a game. It also seems like they will affect how certain relationships with characters will progress, making things more personable. I also got the choice on a day to do an optional task for a character. I'm not far enough to know if this really did anything, but it did make me feel more attached to the character I helped. Like I said, the occasional point and click stuff was all very basic from what I have played. There to flesh out the story and let it shine mostly. This is obviously a game where you were there for the story, which should go without saying considering it's a visual novel. And speaking of, I found the story of the game pretty fun so far. I'm at the part where things seem to be taking off, and it's grabbed me. The characters are all fun and quirky, the type you will meld with pretty fast if you're familiar with manga or anime, as you know the tropes. The setting reminds me of something like Gundam. It's set in the aftermath of a space war. Trouble is not as gone as it seems. And it also has mechs. I like the backstory your character gets in this. It sets a tone that you're not the anime protagonist, you're just a normal guy. I also like that you start off in a relationship with one of the characters on board the ship, so you already have that connection and stakes set. It's all wrapped up in this nice anime aesthetic that is just pleasing to look at, paired with a fitting little soundtrack. If you just want a chill time and are a fan of anime or manga, especially things like Gundam, this is an easy recommendation for you. Last but certainly not least, Inkombini is a game developed by Nagai Industries and published by them alongside Beep Japan Incorporated. It is 1993, and you are Makoto Hayakawa, helping out at the small town convenience store her aunt has worked at for 10 years. I played this one for about an hour and completed the first couple nights. I had also already played a demo for this one previously, for a demo showcase that got doomed in production. Gameplay wise, you are Makoto going through 1 week of night shifts at this store. You write down any tasks you need to do in your notebook, which you can check at any time. Before you open the store for the night, you need to restock shelves and make sure everything is displayed correctly. After that, you flip the store sign to open and await your customers. You talk to them, interact as they go to different items, and occasionally help them pick some items before checking them out. Each night you have different little scenarios and customers to deal with. You also have stuff like notes from other employees, or newspapers that let you learn about characters and events you never meet face to face. You can also call a handful of different places, most notably your aunt, to ask about certain items and situations if a customer needs help. The customer interactions revolve mostly around simple puzzle solving figuring out what the customer wants from dialogue. Alongside this, you learn their stories and personalities. This game immediately stands out as something more personal and comfy, with its typical store simulator controls, with the stocking and checkout mechanics. That being mixed with the more personal stories of not just Makoto, but the customers she serves, and even coworkers, makes us feel like something more special. An experience with something to say, rather than the endless grind of store simulators. Of course, the trade off here, while having some similarities in gameplay, Inkombini is more focused on the basic surface level mechanics, stocking, checking out, and ordering products. This is not a store simulator where you build a store, and so it lacks much of the gameplay of those games. Even some of the extra stuff like ordering stock or trying to sell people deals is all scripted and there to add more layers to the experience, constructed to get you more into the role rather than be something that actually matters in the store sense. You aren't making money or upgrading things, you're living a crafted experience. I prefer this trade off though, as I feel a lot of store simulators get monotonous in the endless loop of grinding, while Inkombini seems to be taking advantage of the monotony of the lighter gameplay elements and interweaving them with a narrative experience and characters create something much more comfortable. So if you're just someone more into store simulators and the stacking and grinding gameplay of them, this is probably not one for you. This game has a nice, simple little aesthetic and a relaxing soundtrack. This all fits the story well, as it is meant to be a chill experience. There aren't any real stakes, so once again, if that's something you look forward to over the specific experience this game is trying to sell, you probably want to look elsewhere. Even when I failed to notice products out of place, or got the item customers wanted wrong, it did not really seem to mean anything. Of course, I've only done the first couple of days of the week. This really does not seem like a game that is trying to punish you over the gameplay, as that isn't what the gameplay is there for. Story-wise, it's all fairly simple so far, but I enjoy it. It's a nice relaxing vibe, and each character is very succinct in their personalities and stories so far. I find myself wanting to learn more about them, and wondering when the next day they're going to show up, since the game only takes place over a week. It feels similar to those coffee, talk, or bartender games that are about the customers and your dynamic with them. Keep an eye on this game if you like narrative experiences or just the very basic routine of store simulator games. With that, this showcase comes to an end. I hope you were able to find at least one game that interested you. I try to pick a fairly decent range of games each time. I'm just a curious skeleton. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.